Look, I don't care which Paradox game you play. It could be Crusader Kings, it could be Hearts of Iron, but in all cases, Poland strong. And we're going to prove that holds true today in Europa Universalis V. Hey folks, my name is Pravus, and yes, you heard me correctly, EU5 is finally here. It's only the biggest grand strategy release in years, no big deal. And today, with a little bit of help and collaboration from my friends over at Paradox, I have an early copy of the game and I will be showing it off for you today. Naturally, as you watch this video, if you like what you see and you want to learn more, there will be a link in the description down below, but of course, without any further ado, I think we should go ahead and start up a new game. Now, you already know that we're going to be playing as Poland for this video, though you might be wondering, why Poland? Well, you see, all the content creators for this game got together with one giant spreadsheet to figure out who was going to play what, make sure we weren't all playing as the Byzantines. And on that list, I saw that no one had picked Poland, and that made me sad, because Poland is one of my favorite nations to play in any Paradox game, so I snagged it. And it helps that Poland is actually in a pretty good position in this game to expand and become a true powerhouse. My goal today is thus: I want to unify all of the Polish culture under one banner, and ideally form a Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, if I can find a way. Though as we get started, I should probably clarify for you what the purpose of this video is and what it is not, just to set some expectations. This is not going to be a play-by-play introductory tutorial into EU5. That would take me hours without even unpausing the game, because EU5 is, how do we say this? Dense. Basically, the best way that I can describe this is whereas EU4 is the most complicated board game you've ever played, EU5 is a grand strategy simulator with so many interplaying factors and variables. It's a really delicate balancing act. But I'm not trying to scare you guys away. One really nice feature about EU5 is if there are certain parts of the game you either don't understand or feel comfortable with, or you just don't enjoy, you can automate many different parts of the game. So if you don't understand or like trade, no problem. Just automate it and the game will take care of it for you, and it does a pretty decent job. Other things just kind of reduce some of the tedium of the game. So for example, if I go to the economy tab here, I've got myself 4 different estates that are vying for power within my country. We have the nobles, we have the clergy, we have the burghers, and we have effectively the common man, or the peasant. I can set separate tax rates on each of them, but it is going to affect their loyalty, and I don't feel like messing with this all the time, so what I'll do is simply automate all of these, and that way the game will always try to get the maximum taxes possible without letting their loyalty fall below 50%. Also going to increase some minting at the start of the game just to make sure we have a little more cash. And then the first thing I want to take a look at is going to be some of the markets. If we take a look at the Krakow market over here, we can see exactly what goods are being produced in this area and what are not. And if this is overwhelming to you, don't worry, I felt the same way when I got started. There are a lot of trade goods. Some of these are consumed by your population, some are raw resources you can refine and then sell in order to make some money. It's all one giant dynamic system. And while I could import some fish, furniture, and so on, the first thing I'm actually going to do is just start importing some gold from Praha over here, so I'll be able to mint that into some proper coinage. It's a very decent way of getting some early game money. But eventually I will be able to start trading for various different profitable goods, or some food to meet the needs of my people, and so on. Lots of different ways to sort through all of these goods. We can get even more trading going if I were to go to production and get some buildings. Specifically, I want to set up some early game marketplaces. And I'm going to do that in both of my towns. We have one over here in Krakow, and we also have one over here in Poznan. In fact, I'll go ahead and queue up 2 in each location, because having a lot of trade early on can be a very good way of making lots of money. Though obviously we could also start crafting things if I were to sort by profitability. A spinner's guild, for example, would be able to take some wool and start turning that into cloth for a bit of a profit. Same thing with turning clay into pottery, or manufacturing tools, which can be used for a lot of other things, so on and so forth. For now, that's good enough to set some early trade and buildings. Let's go to our government over here. Now we can sort through the different estates, look for a bunch of privileges to play with. This is very similar to EU4. I'm not going to mess with that too much right now. Instead, I want to go to our cabinet, because here we're going to be able to assign some cabinet members. Kind of similar to having your council in Crusader Kings. Now, one thing you're going to note is all these different characters that you can hire have 3 separate skills to them, kind of like your rulers. But unlike EU4, your characters benefit from all 3 skills, not just one. So this guy right here being good at pretty much all 3 skills is actually very attractive to me. I'm gonna go ahead and hire this character. And maybe this guy over here as well. Now, what do you do with cabinet members? Oh man, you do a lot. There are many, many different endeavors you can take part in. Depending on what their skills are, they might be very, very efficient at them. For now, what I want to do is start boosting up our province control. We'll start over here in the nearby regions close to my capital. What is control? Well, it's kind of similar again to Crusader Kings, but if we take a look over here, control is basically how much of a hold you have on the province, and it greatly affects things like, let's say, your base tax rate. It does other things as well, and I'll go ahead and let you read this if you would like, but the way to get more control is partly by using your council members, and partly by simply being in close proximity to your capital. How do we see proximity? Well, there's a million different map modes in this game, but I'll pick this one up. You can see here, the further away we get, the lower the control is going to be, the less value we get out of a province. We could boost this up a fair bit if I'm willing to build some roads and infrastructure out of my capital, which I'll go ahead and do. And we could build, let's say, a road over here. It's going to cost me 78 ducats, which is not cheap by any stretch. But by doing so, once it's complete, we're going to extend the range of our capital effectively, which gets me a little bit more value. So it does pay for itself. With my other advisor, the other thing I'm going to do is start stabilizing the country to get some additional stability. Stability, kind of like Imperator, is a sliding, not quite mana, but very similar to a mana in this game. Instead of having big integers like stability 1, 2, and 3 from EU4, it just kind of goes up from 0 to, I think, 100, or it can go into the negative, and if you're in the negative in stability, your entire nation is in a bit of danger. We can spend stability on a lot of stuff, so the more I start building this up, the easier my game is going to get. We could also invest some extra money over here, part of our budget, in order to really build that up. What else can I do? Well, it wouldn't be a bad idea to start picking out some rivals and some allies early on. I will rival Volhynia, Halik, and that's probably good enough for the moment. And then as far as allies, I currently have Hungary and Lithuania on my side. That's pretty decent. We do not like the Teutons, though. We hate them a lot. But for now, I feel okay with this. Let's also go ahead and take a look at research. This is something new here and reminds me a bit of Imperator. There are actually 6 different ages in this game. We are currently in the Age of Traditions in the year of 1337. Very soon, we're going to move on to the Age of Renaissance. Within this, we already have many different technologies that have already been researched, giving me a few different benefits. So I'm going to pop over here to Organized Religion and just go ahead and pick up a few little things, boost up my clergy estate, work toward things like institution growth, because that's going to matter a lot once we get to the Renaissance. And already I've been talking too long. Let's go ahead and unpause the game. Most of the nations of this game actually do have some various different unique events that only can fire for them. So for example, we have the Second Congress of Visegrad for Poland. Again, some nations have more than others. You can imagine that France and England have plenty, whereas, I don't know, maybe Milan or Croatia have a few less to work with. In our case, it looks like we can have a succession law change, the Union of Crowns succession between us and Hungary. Ooh, I wonder if this is going to lead to a personal union. Could be. Personal unions are a fair bit different in this game than they are in EU4, but if we get to that point, I will show you how it works. Something else I should probably consider doing is getting myself some additional goods that I'll be able to use later on. Maybe getting some more copper and iron or clay would make sense. Now, the way we get those is by building out something called an RGO, a resource gathering operation, which is kind of like the natural employment of a region taking advantage of its local resource. We can expand that if we want and provide more jobs for our laborers in order to get more goods. And that's what I'm doing. In fact, if I take a look at a few other territories like our capital over here in Krakow, one thing we'll see over here is that we do have a very large peasant population, basically people who aren't doing anything, but they are able to promote into different tiers of population as time goes on based on whatever buildings we produce in this territory. So we also have our soldiers, we've got our laborers, we've got burghers, and we've got clerics and nobility. At the start of the game, you're probably going to have mostly a lot of laborers and burghers, just because you're going to have lots of production buildings. Now, I've only got about 5 years before our truce with so many different people is about to expire, so I need to think about how we're going to properly unify this country. You see, if we were to take a look at our society over here, we're going to find out that we have two primary cultures that are within our country. We've got the Lesser Polish making up the bulk and the Greater Polish up to the north, and that is an accepted culture, so it's not causing any issues. There are other cultures present in small numbers, so Lysian, Kashubian, Ashkenazi, so on and so forth. Same thing can be said here about religion, though it's almost entirely Catholic. There's a small number of Jews. You can convert a lot of people to your culture slowly over time using a balancing act between cultural tradition to defend against other cultures, and then cultural influence to effectively force people to convert. It's kind of like an offense-defense thing. What I really care about, though, is trying to unify the culture of Poland as much as I can in the early game. I see some territory in Hungary that is not under my control. I see some territory in, let's say, Brandenburg and the Teutonic Order as well. I'd love to bring these all under my control. One of the big things about EU5 that is quite different from EU4, and I think a lot of people have to get adjusted to this, the first, 30 years of the game are really a lot about setting a foundation, getting infrastructure together, getting your economy up and running, and then going on a big blobbing campaign. The more we can kind of have our culture fully unified, I think generally speaking, the better off we're going to be, because as I then start conquering other territory, I can assimilate larger and larger populations as long as I already have a strong base of Poles to kind of keep that under control without introducing new unrest. So case in point right here, we could have a bunch of low Franconian pops migrating over here for 48 months. That's a pretty decent amount of population. As long as we're able to assimilate them, this shouldn't cause an issue, and extra pops actually ends up being a pretty good thing for you. The more pops you have, the more jobs you can work, the stronger your economy. Now this is interesting. We filed a complaint against the Teutonic Order to their boss, the Pope, and apparently now the Papal Commission is going to begin the process of investigating if the Teutons hold territory that should rightfully belong to us. And here's hoping that they actually, do something about that. Yeah, they're not going to give us anything here, so this gives me a claim on Naklo, which is a war they will surely lose. Whoa, I just got a free union over a Halych? I don't know how that happened just now, but okay. So my king is actually the leading character for both of these countries. If I click on both of them diplomatically, you can see there he is. Just like something like, Crusader Kings. They are currently a junior partner in this war, mainly because they have a lower great power score than us. Now, this might seem a little familiar from EU4, but it's kind of important here. But take a look at this. I'm currently the number 43 power in the world because I have a great power score of 151. Halych, for their part, have a great power score of 141, so not that far behind. If they were to get more great power score than me, they could actually flip the union and I would become the junior partner, which we obviously don't want. So it means that if we were to try to get, let's say a personal union with a large country like France, I'd actually suffer from that arrangement. It's really not in my best interest. So that's something kind of new. By the way, we can get our parliament called up over here in Krakow. We should do that. Parliamentary debates are available for a lot of countries in the game, and they work very similar to EU4 in that you can have different estates who are proposing some different initiatives, and you can make them happy or unhappy, whatever it's going to be. Since we think we're going to be going to war very soon, I wouldn't mind going for hosting army exercises, which the nobility really likes. So there's a very strong chance this passes. 54% support. Now, what's complicated about a parliament is you can now try to add on some, let's call it pork to the bill. So right now it's just about doing some army drills. Okay, yeah, fine. But what if I also added onto the bill that I wanted to have, let's say, some additional taxes? Or fabricate a casus belli? Well, that's going to cost us 50% of our support for the law. But then we can add on some other agendas, like, let's say, more autonomy here or some extra privileges to the clergy, and build that support right back up. So you have a base reason for the law, and then you add on a whole bunch of little things to kind of build up or reduce supports in order to get what you want. This is actually a pretty reliable way of getting some casus belli. It's just going to cost you a lot of support amongst the estates. And if this all seems a little overwhelming and confusing, don't worry. Again, this game takes a fair bit of practice. We're not even getting into a lot of the other stuff. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different laws that your government can change up. We also have societal values like decentralization versus centralization, or quantity versus quality, and so on, all of which are shifting around and offer different bonuses. It's complicated, okay? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It just is complicated, but that doesn't mean it's not fun. Whoa, what just happened over here? Hello. Halik apparently is having some issues. They're having a civil war right now. This is gonna happen a lot as we kind of go through the game. You're gonna see that sometimes your nations lose control of their estates, and that's very, very bad, because they can easily rise up against you and try to take all this territory and force some massive change. We'll see if Halik is able to actually get through this. I'm not sure if there's something I should be doing to help with this. Maybe. I'm apparently not allowed to get involved against the civil war here, so, yeah, good luck, junior partner. Hope that works out for you. It should be fine, honestly. They have substantially larger armies and levies than the nobles do. And now that it is 1342, we have entered into the Age of Renaissance. I told you that first age was not going to last long. All right, so from here, interestingly, you have to choose between 3 different playstyles that you want to adopt. We could go for an administrative focus, a diplomatic focus, or a military focus, which is going to lead to a bunch of unique advancements, right, like technology, that we will be able to research. However, understand that you can pick only one of these, and then the rest are no longer going to be options. So look through a lot of this stuff and kind of figure out, well, yeah, what makes sense to me? Do I really want to be able to have a March subject type? Then you got to go for that diplomatic focus. Do I want Deus Vult? Well, then maybe it would make sense to go for the admin focus. And I think the military focus is very tempting to me right now, but we're going to go for the admin focus, and hopefully that ends up being the right call. A new institution has just appeared. Professional armies. In this case, it is in the city of Speyer. That's a very obscure location. Well, just like with EU4, it's going to take a fair bit of time for this institution to spread, and even when it does, it's going to take a lot of money to adopt, so that's not going to be relevant to me for a while. Another institution just appeared. Yes, you can have more than one. Looks like it's going to be banking in Venice. Now, if you're wondering what these institutions do for you, they actually have a lot to do with your advances. So if you click on this over here, we can go to the Age of Renaissance now, and you'll see things like, let's say, the Renaissance Institution is right here. In order to access any of this, we would need to embrace it. Same thing can be said over here with banking or professional armies. Well, at this point, I'm thinking it's kind of been long enough. Should we maybe declare our war against the Teutons, ideally before they pick up any new allies? They've got about 7,000 levies compared to my 12,000, plus, of course, we have our vassals. Let's just go ahead and do it. Declare war. We are stronger than them. This should be easy. I don't even feel like I need to call in Hungary. We're fine. So, the war shall be declared. Go to the military, raise up some levies. Let's make sure we assign, probably ourselves as the military leader, honestly. Whoever has the best military score is sometimes good, but keep in mind, in EU5, all skills are relevant, so even an administrative or a diplomatic ability can give you an advantage. Morale, for example, is diplomatic, but discipline is military. Now, your armies are organized a little bit differently here than they are in EU4. You've got yourself some centers and then some left and right flanks. And if we wanted to, we could actually balance up these armies in such a way that you'd have a really strong flank to try and push through and maybe encircle an enemy. It's kind of like CK2 mechanics, actually. We also do have to worry about the food capacity of an army. It's going to be consuming a chunk over time, and if we don't have a way of foraging some food or being close to our supply lines, then our armies are going to starve, and that will be a problem. Otherwise, things are fairly familiar. My vassals are going around and sieging down territory. If we get to a fort, there is going to be siege progress. Exactly the same as EU4, so this is going to feel familiar to people. Oh, and here's the Black Death. Alright, that's officially begun. It's way over here in the east, beyond what we really even know of the world. It's gonna make its way over here, though. Might be worth trying to build some disease resistance buildings if we can. Missions, hospitals, stuff like that. Sure, protect our pops. Worthwhile use of money, in my opinion. Anyway, war against the Teutons is going pretty well, so I don't expect this to last that much longer, which is no surprise. They were quite a lot weaker than I was. So what I'm gonna do then is quite a lot. I'm gonna take a fair chunk of land. A lot is cored, some is not. We are going to take a bunch of money from them, force them to give up one of their vassals, and we're also just simply going to humiliate them to get some prestige. Because prestige is actually kind of hard to get in this game normally, so anything that gets me more sounds like a great idea. Yeah, this is a very reasonable deal. Let's take it. Boom! Peace in our time. Poland grows stronger. And as I said, a lot of this territory is already my core, but not all of it. The territory here around Stolp is going to need to get cored up. For that, we have to use our cabinet members. I'm specifically looking to integrate a province, which takes the military skills. So if we go ahead and select that, we should speed up the process pretty dramatically. Does that mean that taking large swaths of territory is very difficult because it's going to take a long time to core individually with your cabinet members? Yes. And that is going to be a very big change in the pacing of EU5. In fact, at some point, I have to think that as you get larger and you have more and more cabinet positions, micromanaging every one of your cabinet members is going to get kind of annoying. You might have to start doing a bunch of different automations and priority orders for your cabinet members. Like if I were playing as China or something like that, I think that's how I would have to play the game. But for now, I can micromanage. Now let's take a look at our society over here, because we did just add in a bunch of new pops. So a lot more of the greater Polish area has now been brought under our banner, but we did bring in some more of the Kashubian population up over here. Some Prussian as well. Doesn't seem that bad. None of these are actively disliked within the Polish society, so they're not going to cause too many issues, I think. Now, some of these pops are automatically going to start swaying in our direction, though once again, we will be able to make use of, let's say, some of our council members in order to speed this up. So pop assimilation speed and pop conversion speed. If I were to do this, trying to get pops into our culture, 40 pops of the entire population of like 100,000 would get to our culture every month. It's a little slow, unless you've got a very, very good diplomatic advisor. Now, you might think to yourself, okay, you've managed to make some pretty solid progress, you pushed all the way up to the coast, you should go ahead and push the attack against, let's say, the Teutons, or against Volgast over here, and just keep grabbing more territory, right? That's how you would play EU4 normally. It's a little more complicated than that, though. I mean, even though I have a spy network on the Teutons right now, creating a casus belli would be kind of difficult. It was easy before when I had cores, but now they actually have to do something wrong in order to have a justification for a war. So if they were to mess with my trade or something, sure, that'd be fine. But since I don't have any cores, just claiming some territory is not really an option. Same thing would be true if I wanted to go ahead and fight against Volgast, or if I wanted to fight against Brandenburg, etc. But against Volhynia, I could declare war on them. Why? Because I do have a casus belli, a dubious claim that I created with my parliament. And that's kind of why I showed you that earlier. Parliament is probably one of the more consistent ways of getting some claims, even if they're not very strong. And honestly, now doesn't seem like a horrible time to go ahead and take something from Volhynia. Maybe we should just go ahead and declare this war. I can bring in Hungary to fight against the Golden Horde. That makes this reasonably easy. Yeah, let's go ahead and declare that war and grab a little bit more territory now. Raise up the levies. Now you can imagine why levies start to get a little bit annoying at some point, and that'll be why you want to have professional armies that you can easily prepare for a war. But we're not there yet. We don't have the institutional requirements. There we go. That's kind of all the territory I wanted anyway, right over here, so I'm not going to go fight further in the Golden Horde. It's not worth diving deep into their territory, because again, I'm taking attrition and losing population during the Black Death. Why would I want to lose more than I have to? This is enough to get me some more reps, plus a decent amount of territory. Done. So there we go. Kingdom of Poland continued to grow strong. Now, turning our attention back to this whole Black Death business. Previously, all we could do was build up some disease resistance buildings, but now that it's in my territory, there are other options here. Mass forgiveness, pay some money, gain some stability. Yeah. Could try to cut off the country entirely, control the food market so we don't import bad food. I have no idea what's actually good here. Our entire economy is definitely starting to feel the strain here, though. Like, if I take a look over here at our RGOs, you can see we are now missing many thousands of pops across various different jobs. Because everyone else is just dropping like flies, man. The Pope thinks it's an act of God. And yeah, maybe he's right. I don't know. We don't understand this whole germ theory thing. That's a load of hooey. Good lord, I'm losing so many pops right now. We were well over 1 million. We've dropped down to 900,000. That ain't much. Looks like that Black Death has finally passed on, though. We lost 600,000 people. Yeah, that sounds about right, doesn't it? To be frank, we kind of got off easy. So far, almost 100 million people have died from it. So it's going to take us a little while to recover, but that's okay. Overall, I want to say we lost about like 40% of our population from the Black Death. That's about on track with how it worked out historically, so I have to think we came out of that somewhat okay. The next like 15 years of the game or so are just going to be about rebuilding, getting that population back up and running, working all the jobs we already have set up, and then integrating and assimilating the provinces I have already taken in war. I'm not really going to be doing a lot of expansion at this stage, though. We're just going to focus on trying to build up some good alliances, get our economy in a good spot, and see if I can schmooze up to Lithuania just a bit. I will say it's a little difficult to decide if the process of, let's say, integrating some provinces and coring them is a lot slower in EU5, or if that's just a matter of perception, because I have noticed the game generally does run quite a lot slower than EU4 does. There's just so much to calculate. But it feels like it took a long time to finish coring up these provinces. Maybe it's fine, though. Maybe it's comparable. I really don't know. Now, the real question is, because it says we integrated Polish Stolp, which is part of a larger region, I didn't just get, like, technically cores on some of Volgast over here, did I? I don't think so. No, doesn't look like it. So I have to assume that if we took this territory, I'd have to integrate all of it the old-fashioned way, and that would take a very long time too, right? Maybe? That's something we'll have to test out another time. Oh, and it looks like the Black Death is finally done. Okay, so we didn't lose anyone else. Good. Back over 1 million pops. Oh, what's this? Looks like Hungary got into a war with Bulgaria. Bulgaria is surprisingly weak right now, actually. They used to be fairly strong. They must have really taken a shellacking. Well, you don't need my help. You've got 18,000 troops, Hungary, but sure, okay. I will raise some of my levies, but not very much, because I don't think you need the help too much, and I'd rather preserve my manpower so I can keep working jobs. All right, Hungary apparently is just leaving me to die here. Well, that's exceedingly rude. You don't want to just send a few troops over here to help reinforce? Just one little bit would help. Fine, I'm out. Good luck, have fun. What is this? Something new just happened. A Western schism in Catholicism. The Curia is in petty factionalism. Interesting. Something going on here between the Papal States and with France. Seems like basically the French were the papal controllers and really don't want to give it up. I don't really know what it would do to join one side or the other, but I'm kind of inclined to say maybe we should just join the Papal States because I don't want France to get too strong. They're already scary as heck. There might be all the more reason not to get involved in this. I don't know, but we'll see. Especially since it looks like France is actually getting the majority of the support. I might have made a mistake. Hopefully this doesn't call me into any sort of war. Yeah, it looks like the Langres are going to be getting the majority of the support here, so France will likely remain a papal controller of some sort. Okay, I have no idea what this implies. This is all before the typical start date in 1444, so this is all new territory historically for me. Maybe it shouldn't be, but you can blame the American education system if you want. I'm fine with that. You know, it's interesting, the longer the game goes on, the more I feel like I'm starting to see some pretty familiar borders in this game. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, we're not that far ahead of the original start date. Some expansion has to be done by Sweden and Norway and stuff, yeah, sure. The Ottomans, however, are just now really starting to pick up some speed. Byzantium has apparently been, well, broken up in some way. We have the Empire, and then we have Byzantion, the Duchy, independently over here. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, like the borders are starting to look closer and closer, and if I can eventually integrate Halych, I'm not that far off of where I should be in 1444. Oh, thank God. You know, I was actually getting kind of worried about the succession here in Poland. I just had a son, which I will say is very impressive for a 58-year-old man. But there we go, that's our crown prince. Oh boy, all right. Well, here's hoping we live long enough to avoid a regency. Oh, crud. Lithuania just ran in here to start a war against the Teutons. I wanted to take some of this land. Okay, hang on. We gotta go ahead and declare this war, like, now. I already have my, fabricated casus belli here from Parliament, so that's easy. Let's declare the war and try to get in here and grab Marienburg before the Lithuanians do. 57% war score feels like a pretty decent deal for me. I'm curious what the AI would say as far as a peace deal. Take all this from the Teutons, huh? It could be alright, yeah. I could try taking some land here in Wolgast as well, which would be interesting. I want to know if I actually already have this cord. Probably not, because all I really had a claim on over here was Upper Prussia. The rest of this is going to take me a while to core for potentially not as much value, but getting Stolp, I could see that being good. Though, can I sue for peace from Wolgast separately? The answer is yes, I most certainly can. I can take a lot of land from them, actually. I don't think I want this much land. It's just going to take me a lot of time to assimilate, but a little bit sounds good. And I can force them into a royal marriage with me? Wow, I didn't know that was a thing. So you can kind of try to force some sort of a personal union over people over time. Very interesting. Okay, so that was actually surprisingly lucrative. And then I'll just take this off the Teutons as well. Okay, we've grown a fair bit here. Popping back to my 3-year-old son, apparently we can give him an education, which gives you 0.5 ability increase. But if we want to spend a lot of money, yeah, we could get even more skills. Ooh. I mean, he's my only son. I've got to invest. And just like that, my 3-year-old became shrewd. How? More military and administrative abilities during education. That's, like, awesome, though, actually. Yeah, this is very Crusader Kings. Are you guys kind of seeing the pattern here? Like, there's so many different Paradox Grand Strategy games all being referenced or used in some way in this game. It's very interesting. Now, one thing I will say about the early game here of EU5, there's really nothing happening right now aside from trying to deal with the rebels that are inevitably building up from all the conquest I've been doing, which I probably shouldn't be doing. Coring, which is taking up my 2 cabinet members, and then of course I'm not assimilating any cultures, I'm not converting anyone to my religion. There's a lot of things I'm not doing here. And I think that one of the things that I'm not sold on yet with EU5 is honestly this cabinet system. It's so very limiting. It feels like you really can't do a lot because there's so many tasks that need to be done. All of them are good, but at this stage of the game I only have 2 cabinet members. Now I understand that with advancements, eventually we will be able to get more, and you can imagine how very useful that will be. Those are going to be very high priorities, but until we get to that point, you know, it's now 1373, and I feel like I've been sitting around doing nothing for, I don't know, the last 20, 30 minutes? Yeah, no, I'd like things to go a smidge faster. Whoa, Lithuania, what just happened over here? You exploded. Hello. I think there's actually a very good chance that Lithuania Minor is going to be able to break regular Lithuania. Huh. Well, we have been allies. I've tried allying them like 3 or 4 times, and they keep accepting and then canceling with me, so it's your own dang fault if you lose. The only problem is, I liked that you were Catholic. Now the Romuva are actually trying to rise up against you. I mean, I really want to get some sort of a Lithuanian Commonwealth going on here, but that's gonna be kind of tough. We can get here, you see, a Tier 3 Poland-Lithuania country, but I need to own Vilnius and Warsaw to some degree or another, and they'd have to be my subject. So, if they're never going to be my subject and I can't get a personal union with them, that's going to make this kind of tough. I mean, just think about a control by itself, like this right here. Look how little control I have in such a large portion of my country. And that's with me trying to build out roads and expand my proximity as much as possible. It's just not quite enough for me. So either I got to figure out better ways of getting control, or you're supposed to be using your advisors in order to crack down on what is effectively the autonomy of the region. But they're so busy either dealing with some of the insurgents or coring territory, or assimilating, or converting, or building stability, or anything, that it kind of feels like I don't really have enough characters to kind of pick and choose what I want to do. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's one thing I've noticed from playing the game so far. By the way, if you were wondering how the whole integration thing works if you take only part of an area, it turns out you do get to keep some progress. So I had 2 out of 5 provinces already integrated, therefore I start with 40% if I want to start integrating beyond that. So it makes sense. Hey, Lithuania finally fixed their civil war situation. That only took like, what, 8 years or something? A long time. Then again, I'm really losing sense of time here because I'm doing absolutely nothing except for waiting for these integrations. Oh my god, they take forever. Oh, but my little personal union over here, Halek, is getting absolutely obliterated by Kyiv. You know, you would think that as my junior partner in a union, I'd be called in to do something about this, but apparently not. I can't really say that I understand why that would be the case. I mean, if you go down all the union policies, so what you do is you slowly start building up that integration level by passing different laws or policies here, including, for example, I have established that I am the senior in the partnership. We have unified succession law, unified treasury, external diplomacy, aligned legislature. I'm just waiting a couple of years, and then we can actually go for the question of unification. Like everything, they are aligned with me, including, again, like diplomacy. So why am I not being called in? Seems a little odd to me. Hey, our heir has finally hit the age of 16. Good, what's your skill level? Nowhere near as good as your father, if I'm gonna be honest, but this is at least a tolerable level. Yeah, it's okay. I'd like to get my son married, but it looks like there's not a single country in the world that wants to have him. Well, that's awkward. Finally, I think I'm about to finish integrating here in Stolp. Okay, that took, good lord, forever. So one thing I just learned, though, that's interesting. So if you take a look at some of these individual provinces, what you're going to see is that there are such a thing as core settlements over here. And in some places, they are integrated settlements, but not core. And it wasn't very obvious to me what you have to do there in order to convert from just integrated up to core, and the answer is it has to be of your majority culture and religion. So if you truly want to get the full value out of these provinces, you're gonna have to do the cultural assimilation and the religious conversion. So building up your power base is legitimately going to take a very, very long time. And as you can see, I've got kind of a lot of pops that are not of my primary culture right now. But it would be a way of trying to get rid of some of these Patriot rebel types, so maybe worthwhile. Okay, we've made it 50 years with Halek over here. Question of unification. Well, I would have loved to do swift unification, or rapid unification. What's the issue here? Why can't we? I think we have to start with unification and then work our way up. Oh. And yeah, by the way, assimilating this, I mean, 77 people per month or whatever out of the 40,000 I'm trying to convert does not seem to be a very fast process, unsurprisingly. Oh, gosh. So we've got ourselves a little bit of a problem here. Halych should be annexable, I would have thought, because at this point we've now reached maximum union integration level. We've even got the law saying the question of unification is going, which means that we will be able to start the annexation, and yet, for some reason, annexation's not an option. I don't know if maybe it's because they are Orthodox and I am Catholic, and that's a problem, but I've also noticed that for some reason they don't have an heir, which means when my king dies, I think we lose the personal union and 50 years of work. So what I think I need to do, I might be wrong on this, but we're going to try it. We're going to go to laws. It says here that the heir has to be Catholic, but they have the same succession law I do by union law, which means theirs has to be Orthodox, and mine's not. So what if I change the law to say same religious group? Would I then be able to have these guys make my heir take power once my king dies, and then I hold on to this until we can figure out a better way to do the annexation? Maybe. I have no idea. This is a new thing for me. Oh my god, I lost 62 stability. Oh my god. Okay, that might have been a small mistake. I'm just going to casually toss a lot of cash into increasing my stability, please. Thank you. Having negative stability is actually really bad. Notice how much estate loyalty I am losing right now. If this keeps up for very long, we are on track for a big civil war. Okay, we've now implemented that law. Halek, do we see if you are able to... It does not say, I don't think, that I have an heir, so I'm confused as to what the issue is here. Cognatic primogeniture law. Like, I don't really understand why my heir is unable to inherit here. I kind of thought that maybe that was the issue. Or maybe it'll work and it's just not showing it correctly right now. I really don't know. All I know is I'm not able to annex it. I've got, like, maximum laws to do so, and I'm unable to annex Halek. Could it be because that even though they are a personal union, they are still a tributary to the Golden Horde? Maybe? I mean, they shouldn't exactly be a vassal. They're in a personal union as well, and they respond to all my calls to war. I can make them go to war with the Golden Horde, and yet somehow, maybe that's playing a role, and the only solution would be to go to war with the Golden Horde and try to force them to break free. Maybe? This is going to be a very rough fight, but we can certainly give it a shot. That actually ended up being a lot easier than I thought it would. Even though the Golden Horde does have a large army, it looks like they're not able to raise quite as much as I would have thought. Either that or very distracted, I'm not sure what it is. But we got their capital. So can I maybe sue for peace and get you to revoke something? No, it does not look like Halek actually counts as one of their subjects here, which is odd because Kiev over here is, I believe, only a tributary as well, but Halek doesn't count. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So the only thing I can think to do at this point is to try to force them to become my tributary and see if that resets everything, but I don't know that it does. Let's give that a go. I am now technically their overlord of sorts. But no, Halek still does pay tribute to them. I don't know, man. I don't know. And I still have no way of annexing them. I have no idea what the problem is here, if I'm honest. And I hate to say bug this early on, because I really don't know. It is that early in the game. It's totally possible that I am just misunderstanding something. And yet, I seem unable to keep Halek, and my king is a whopping 82 years old. There's a very good chance he dies, and I'm going to lose the personal union any second now. Yep, and there we go, we've lost the Polish union. Oh my god, that hurts. Alright, well, our king died. So, long live the new king. What ended up happening with your rulership, then? I don't even know who this is. Who is this person? Our cousin, apparently. Ugh, for God's sake, that sucks! And this is leading me straight into a potential civil war against my nobility, of which, they hold a lot of land. And I don't really see a way out of this. Shy of granting them golden liberty, which would get me more levy, to be fair, less taxes. I don't even care about that. I don't know, if it's getting dangerously close to the disaster, I might actually just go ahead and extend that. So with this disaster, is it literally just there's a 2% chance every month it hits, or is it building up over time? I don't see any evidence that it's building. It seems like it's just gonna hang over my head until it hits. It could happen now, it could happen maybe years from now. Not gonna lie though, I am really peeved about the Halix situation. I feel like I spent a lot of time earning that, and then I have no idea why it went wrong is just kind of a bit of a kick in the teeth, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of tempted to, like, at the end of this video, just hop into debug mode and annex them just so we can see what my borders should look like. But I'm wary that, like, it turns out I'm missing something important, and that's why I couldn't do it. But, like, I couldn't break them free from the Golden Horde. We had an heir that allows for their religion. Like, I don't know what could possibly have been wrong, but that doesn't mean that I know what I'm talking about. It's a very new game, and mistakes can indeed be made. And there's the rise of the Slacha. Okay, so that's a thing now. Boom, the disaster has fired. So, how do I fix this? Well, we could push for plutocracy and get away from the aristocracy as our societal value, but it doesn't seem like that's really an option for me, if I'm honest. What are the end requirements here? I could either find a way to get the nobility more estate power, which they're about 13% off of, in order to, get out of this, or just grant the golden liberty and be done with it. If I'm completely honest with you, I actually might be sort of okay with just giving up the support here. Like, golden liberty scares me a little bit. It does give them a ton of estate power, but I mean, like, it's just not worth dealing with this, and the extra levy is gonna make it so that I can easily deal with a lot of wars. And now that the event has fired off once, I'm pretty sure if I just revoke that, it can't fire again, so it's not that big of a deal, I think. Oh, wait a minute, though. Wait a minute, though. I didn't realize this. Hold on. The triumph of the Slacha giving into them caused some problems here. Rule of the Sejm? That's going to be our parliament? So the nobles just straight out got a lot of power, and now I can't declare war without a casus belli. That was kind of already true, but even so, elective succession? Oh, guys, I actually just got to the elective succession law that we have in EU4. So I guess this might even be historically accurate, I don't know. Although it looks like they immediately want to send us right back to cognatic primogeniture. Oh, tell me if you guys understand what you're talking about. What's going on? Hang on, what's this? What's this? With the privilege of the... Poland will be able to form a Lithuania with a marriage proposal event. What? Yes. Hold on. We might have found a way to get Lithuania into a personal union. This might not have actually been a mistake. This might all have been exactly what I needed to do. What's this? We can finally embrace an institution! Alright, professional armies is about to be a thing, boys. Now, just like in EU4, it has to spread through a certain amount of your territory before that's an option, and then it's going to cost you a lot of not only money, but also a lot of stability in order to embrace one of these institutions. The more it spreads naturally in your territory, the cheaper it gets. So you don't have to pick this up right away, though obviously, depending on what it is, maybe you want to. And that will lead to a whole bunch more advances. So like I look at professional armies and I think, hey look, army maintenance reductions, military tactics, gunsmiths, cannon makers, handgunners, cavalrymen, of course we love those as Poland. Yeah, lots of very useful things if we want to have a modern military. Could be good. I'd even be open to it if it weren't for the stability cost. That's the hard part for me to swallow. Well, it's almost 1400. Before we start ending things off, let's go ahead and get just a little bit more territory from the Teutons. And I think this is more than enough for what I wanted. Revoke a bunch of cores, get me some more land, and bada boom. Except now the Golden Horde is trying to get independence from me. Should have done that while I was distracted in an earlier war, you fool. I beat you once, I've got no reason to believe that I couldn't easily beat you again. But now that we're past 1400, I do think that this might be a good place for us to stop. Still in the process of integrating Upper Prussia. That has been a very, very, very slow process. The separatists up there have been an issue for a while. And even though I've been trying to assimilate their culture here and there, the demographics are just very against me. In fact, funnily enough, even though I know I was converting some into Lower Prussian, as far as I can tell, there aren't any here. Which makes me think that their cultural tradition must be strong enough that people keep reverting back to being Prussian and my influence is too weak. Yeah, you can see my assimilation rate truly sucks. Partly because I'm a spiritualist, I guess. But the good news is, economically, I do think we're doing very, very well. I've usually been able to build up large piles of ducats. And I've built roads all over the place, so you can see here, they're not nearly as impactful as you'd like to think from a control and a proximity perspective. Even so, though, like our trade node is worth 75 ducats now, so we've grown quite a lot here. And if only Halik had properly been annexable, I actually think that our borders would look shockingly close to how they're supposed to be in 1444. All we're waiting for is some sort of an event to fire that can give me a royal marriage with the Great Duchy of Lithuania and put them into a personal union. And then, if we go into a large conquest spree against, let's say, Kyiv, we actually are heading straight into 1444 territory. So I don't think we're that far off of the benchmark of where we ought to be if we were going by EU4 terms, which is interesting. We survived the Black Death with reasonable numbers. We haven't been murdered by the Holy Roman Empire of Bohemia, because these guys have been very strong for the entire game. They're currently the most powerful nation in the world, easily. We've also survived against the encroaching hordes to the east. So overall, I think I've had a pretty decent run here, and I think Poland is in a pretty good position and has proven that it is at least relatively strong, if nothing else. Though again, we certainly could have been stronger. In fact, you know what? Give me 1 second. Let me just go ahead and do a little thing here, annexing Halik like so. That, in theory, is what we should have looked like. So if I overlay a quick map from, let's say, EU4, you'll see that my borders are actually fairly close. Yeah, and we're 40 years in advance. All I gotta do is make Lithuania mine. So I definitely think we have the early game down. My only gripe is that it does feel a bit slow compared to EU4. EU4, you can have some really aggressive opening moves, and it's quite fun in that way. But EU5, you gotta go into it understanding it's gonna be slower paced, and you're gonna have to treat it a bit more like a simulation. Spend that first 30, 50, even 100 years building up a really big foundation and infrastructure so that you can launch yourself into the stratosphere. Perhaps even Poland can into space. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope you at least found this video informative and interesting to get you situated with Europa Universalis V. It's a big game, guys, and you gotta be ready to take it slow, but if you're willing to put in the work, obviously a lot of great things can be accomplished. And of course, I want to say a big thank you to Paradox as well for sponsoring today's video and getting me the early access. I'm looking forward to seeing how this game is going to continue getting improved and tweaked over the next few weeks. If you guys want to learn more about EU5, you can find a link in the description down below, which is also a good way to support the channel if that interests you. Otherwise, the best thing you could do for me is to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.